Hello everyone, and welcome to the DxD Tales. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Issei was the reincarnation of Lucifer Morningstar, DxD. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. The Awakening. The dream always beg, and the same way, falling through endless light. Issei Hyodo tumbled through a sea of radiance that should have been blinding but somehow wasn't. The sensation wasn't frightening, it felt like returning home after an eternity away. Wind rushed past his face, but there was no fear, only a peculiar sense of righteous defiance. Something had been denied him, something fundamental. In the distance, a voice called out, melodious, heartbroken, but the words remained indistinct. Then came the fire, not consuming him, but emanating from within. His wingspan, and when had he ever had wings, stretched impossibly wide. Each feather trailing embers against the perfect sky as he fell farther from grace. I will not serve, he heard himself say in a voice both his and not his. I will not bow. The foul L lasted both an instant and an eternity. The light receded, darkness rushed up to meet him, and just before impact, Issei's alarm blared with merciless persistence. His hand shot out, silencing the device with unusual precision. Golden morning light filtered through curtains he didn't remember closing the night before. He sat up slowly, the dream's details already fading except for that unfamiliar voice, his voice, echoing in his mind. I will not serve, I will not bow. Asterisk. Third time this week, he muttered, running fingers through disheveled brown hair. The dreams had started months ago, vague impressions of light and rebellion, but lately, they'd intensified, gaining clarity and emotional weight that lingered into his waking hours. Issei crossed to his bathroom, splashing cold water on his face. The mirror revealed a 17-year-old boy with ordinary features, yet something in his eyes seemed different this morning, a hint of ancient knowledge behind the youthful facade. He leaned closer, studying the subtle golden flecks that had appeared in his brown irises. Had those always been there? Issei, you'll be late for school. His mother's voice floated up from downstairs, pulling him back to mundane reality. Coming, he called back, the dream world receding further. 20 minutes later, he walked the familiar route to Kuo Academy, the prestigious former all-girls school that had recently gone co-ed. Cherry blossoms swirled around him, their gentle scent contrasting with the unsettled feeling in his chest. He'd chosen the scenic path through the park, hoping the extra minutes might clear his head. You look terrible, came a cheerful voice. Matsuda appeared beside him, grinning lecherously. Late night browsing the special collection. Issei's other friend, Motohama, adjusted his glasses with practiced precision. His energy is all wrong for that. I calculate a 67% probability of girl troubles, 23% chance of insomnia. Once, Issei might have matched their banter about pornography or ogled passing female students with equal enthusiasm. These days, such juvenile pastimes held decreasing interest. The dreams left him contemplating questions of cosmic significance rather than teenage hormones. Just didn't sleep well, Issei replied, forcing a smile. Well, wake up. Matsuda slapped his back. The kendo club's changing after second period. And I found the perfect peephole. The old Issei would have jumped at the opportunity. Today, he merely shrugged. I'll pass. Got supplementary math to catch up on. His friends exchanged concerned glances. Okay, who are you and what have you done with the real Issei? Motohama demanded, half joking but with genuine concern underlying his words. If only you knew how apt that question might be, Issei thought. People change, he said simply, quickening his pace toward the school gates. Not this dramatically, Matsuda muttered behind him. Not without a reason. Kuo Academy's imposing Gothic architecture loomed against the morning sky, gargoyles peering down from ornate towers. Issei had always appreciated the building's aesthetics, but recently he'd begun noticing details that had previously escaped him. Subtle symbols carved into cornerstones, geometric patterns in the windows that almost resembled sigils. The place radiated a faint energy he couldn't quite identify but somehow recognized. As he crossed the threshold, a chill ran down his spine. Someone was watching him. Trusting his increasingly sharp instincts, Issei glanced toward the old school building. There, Framed in an upper window, stood a figure with crimson hair cascading over her shoulders. Rias Gramori, the school's most celebrated beauty and president of the mysterious occult research club. Her penetrating gaze locked with his for a moment that stretched unnaturally. Something passed between them, a recognition that transcended ordinary awareness. Then she smiled, a slight curve of perfect lips, and vanished from the window. Issei stood frozen, heart pounding with inexplicable recognition. He'd admired Gramori Senpai from afar, as did most students, but this felt different. And, like two celestial bodies whose orbits had finally, inevitably, begun to intersect. Earth to Issei, Motohama waved a hand before his face. Stop drooling over Gramori Senpai. She's stratospheres beyond your league. I wasn't. Issei began, then stopped. How could he explain the sensation of ancient connection he'd just experienced? Never mind. We'll be late. The school day dragged with excruciating slowness. Issei found himself sketching peculiar symbols in his notebook, spiraling patterns that resembled galaxies and wings. His history teacher's lecture on ancient Mesopotamia triggered red flashes of places he couldn't possibly have seen, hanging gardens, ziggurats under starlit skies, eyes painted on temples to gods long forgotten. When they covered the biblical fall of man in literature class, Issei had to leave the room, overcome by a vertigo that felt like falling through light again. During lunch, he escaped to the rooftop, seeking solitude. The city spread below him, mundane and mortal, yet he found himself seeing beyond physical structures to patterns of energy, ley lines and convergences of power he somehow knew weren't visible to ordinary eyes. It's beautiful, isn't it? Came a melodious voice behind him. When you can see past the veil. Issei turned, already knowing who he would find. Rias Gramori stood several paces away, her crimson hair dancing in the breeze. Up close, she was even more striking. Flawless skin, eyes the impossible blue-green of tropical waters, and an aura of contained power that radiated from her like heat from flame. Gramori Senpai, he acknowledged, surprised by his lack of nervousness. Something about her presence felt familiar, though not entirely comfortable. I didn't hear you approach. Few do, she replied with a slight smile. You're Issei Hyodo. Second year. Unremarkable grades. No club activities. She took a step closer, her eyes narrowing slightly. Yet suddenly, you're the most interesting person in this school. Issei raised an eyebrow. I doubt that's true. Oh, she tilted her head, studying him with unsettling intensity. Then perhaps you can explain why your aura has been fluctuating between human and something else. Something that shouldn't be possible. The world seemed to still around them. Distant sounds, students laughing, traffic beyond the school, faded to nothing. Issei felt a strange calm settle over him, as if this confrontation had been predestined. I don't know what you're talking about, he said carefully, though part of him, the part that dreamed of falling, absolutely did. Rias stepped closer, close enough that he could detect her scent, something ancient and sweet, like ambrosia or honey mixed with winter wind. I think you do, or at least, part of you does. She reached out, not quite touching him. Your energy, it's like nothing I've ever encountered. Ancient, powerful. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Forbidden. A sudden gust of wind swept between them, carrying cherry blossoms that swirled around Issei like a living cloak. For a heartbeat, they appeared to glow with inner fire. Rias's eyes widened fractionally. Fascinating, she murmured. Tell me, Issei Hyodo, have you been experiencing anything unusual lately? Dreams, perhaps. Abilities you can't explain. The direct question triggered something deep within him, a reflexive protection of secrets. Why would the great Rias Gramori concern herself with my dreams? He countered, surprised at the subtle authority that had crept into his tone. Rather than taking offense, Rias smiled, a genuine expression that transformed her face from merely beautiful to radiant. Because I'm the president of the Occult Research Club, and you, Issei Hyodo, may be the most occult thing in this entire town. The lunch bell rang, breaking the moment. Rias stepped back, her demeanor shifting to the school idol once more. Join me at the old school building after classes today. We have much to discuss. It wasn't a request. Issei watched her leave, feeling as if some cosmic chess piece had just been moved. The ordinary high school student in him was thrilled that the most beautiful girl in school had sought him out. But another part, the part that remembered falling, whispered caution. She is not what she appears. Neither are you. Asterisk. The afternoon classes passed in a blur. When the final bell rang, Issei found himself standing before the old school building almost without conscious decision. Its Victorian architecture seemed more imposing in the late afternoon light, shadows stretching like fingers across the grounds. The building practically hummed with energy that resonated with something inside him. Before he could knock, the heavy wooden door swung open. "We've been expecting you," said a petite white-haired girl with expressionless golden eyes. Kaneko Tuju, first year and another school celebrity due to her incongruous combination of stoic demeanor and cute appearance. She turned without waiting for a response, padding silently down the dimly lit hallway. Issei followed, noting the ornate woodwork adorned with roses and thorns. Old paintings lined the walls, landscapes that seemed vaguely familiar, though he was certain he'd never visited the places depicted. One in particular caught his eye, a rendering of a beautiful garden with a single tree at its center, a serpent coiled around its trunk. Something about the image sent a jolt of recognition through him. The serpent's eyes seemed to follow him as he passed. "This way," Kaneko said flatly, gesturing toward double doors at the corridor's end. Beyond them lay a room that defied the building's historical exterior. Plush Victorian furniture arranged around a glowing magic circle inlaid in the floor. Occult symbols adorned the walls between towering bookshelves filled with ancient tomes. Candelabras provided most of the illumination, flames dancing without flickering despite the draft from the opening door. Rias Grimori sat behind an ornate desk, while beside her stood Akano Himahima, the vice president and second great lady of Kuo Academy. Nearby, a handsome blonde boy, Kiba Yudo, Issei recognized, leaned against a bookshelf with casual grace. "Welcome to the Occult Research Club," Rias said, gesturing to an empty chair across from her. "Please, make yourself comfortable." Issei remained standing, surveying the room with newly heightened senses. "This is no mere club room," he observed. "The symbols, the circle, this is a place of power." A flicker of surprise crossed Rias's face before her composed mask returned. "How perceptive of you. You're right, of course. We maintain certain extracurricular activities beyond what the school administration approves." Era, he's sharper than you expected," Akano commented, her voice musical and slightly teasing. Unlike Kaneko's emotionless assessment, Akano's gaze held open curiosity tinged with something darker, anticipation, perhaps even hunger. "What exactly do you want from me?" Issei asked directly. Rias leaned forward, resting her chin on interlaced fingers. "To understand what you are. Your aura has been changing dramatically over the past weeks, flaring with power that shouldn't be possible for a human. And you're qualified to judge what's possible for humans because..." Issei let the question hang. A tense silence filled the room. Finally, Rias straightened, decision made. "Because none of us here are human, Issei Hyodo." With those words, black wings unfurled from everyone's backs, leathery, bat-like appendages that filled the room with soft rustling. "We are devils, and I believe you may be something far more interesting." Instead of shock or fear, Issei felt an unexpected wave of amusement. "Devils," he repeated, the word tasting strangely familiar on his tongue. How very quaint. His reaction clearly wasn't what they had anticipated. Kiba's hand moved subtly toward a sword that hadn't been visible a moment before. Kaneko shifted her weight, tiny body coiling with unexpected strength. Only Akano seemed delighted by his response, a musical laugh escaping her lips. "Oh my, this is unexpected," she said. "Bushu, I don't think he's impressed with us." Rias's eyes narrowed. "You don't seem surprised, Issei. Why is that?" A memory surfaced, not from his human life, but from before. Inged beings kneeling before a light too brilliant to comprehend, the feeling of fetters closing around his very essence. His refusal, his fall, perhaps, Issei said slowly, "because where I come from. Devils were once angels who followed me when I fell." The words escaped before he could consider their implication. A collective intake of breath filled the room. The temperature plummeted, frost forming on the windows despite the spring warmth outside. "What did you just say?" Rias whispered, all pretense of control vanishing. Before Issei could respond, before he could even process what he had revealed, A piercing pain shot through his chest. He looked down to see a spear of light protruding from his sternum, glowing with holy energy. Through the window behind him, a dark figure hovered, a woman with black feathered wings. Her face twisted in triumph. "Target eliminated," the woman announced, her voice carrying despite the closed window. "The anomaly will trouble you no more, devil scum." Issei staggered, blood spreading across his uniform shirt. The fallen angel, for he somehow knew exactly what she was, vanished in a flurry of black feathers. The room erupted into motion, Rias shouting orders, Akino rushing to his side, Kiba and Kaneko moving to secure the perimeter. But Issei barely registered any of it. The pain was secondary to the rage building inside him, an ancient, horrible fury that had once shattered the gates of paradise. Light began to emanate from his wound, not the sickly glow of the weapon that had pierced him, but something purer, more fundamental, the original light from which all others derived. "Impossible," he heard Akino whisper as the spear dissolved into particles that were absorbed into his body. Issei straightened, the wound closing before their eyes. His vision sharpened, the world's details becoming preternaturally clear. He could see the individual motes of dust suspended in sunbeams, count the threads in Rias's clothing, perceive the subtle energy signatures of everyone present. "No fallen angel wields the light against me," he said, his voice resonating with harmonics that made the windows vibrate. "I am the Lightbringer, the Morning Star." 6 wings unfurled from his back. Not bat-like devil wings, nor feathered angel pinions, but something in between, radiant energy shaped into physical form, emitting a light that caused the devils to shield their eyes. Knowledge flooded through him, names and faces spanning millennia, cosmic wars and quiet betrayals, the architecture of creation itself. For one brilliant moment, Issei Hyodo remembered everything. He was Lucifer Morningstar, the first to question, the first to rebel, the bearer of light and freedom. He had ruled hell, abandoned it, shaped realities according to his will. Then, as suddenly as it had come, the power receded. The wings dissolved into particles of light that scattered across the room like golden snowflakes. Issei collapsed to his knees, ordinary once more, yet forever changed. Silence reigned. When he finally looked up, he found all 4 devils staring at him with expressions ranging from awe to terror. "Well," Rias finally said, her voice barely steady, "I think we can all agree this isn't what any of us expected." Rainer flew through the night sky, her black wings barely visible against the darkness. Exhilaration coursed through her veins. She had done it, eliminated the anomalous energy signature that had been troubling her superiors. The strange human boy had died easier than expected, 1 light spear through the chest, and the threat was neutralized. Azazel would be pleased. The mysterious power fluctuations in Kuo would cease, the devils would lose whatever weapon they'd been cultivating, and perhaps, most important, she would finally receive the recognition she deserved among the Grigori leadership. A bolt of lightning split the sky, striking uncomfortably close. Rainer veered sharply, scanning for threats. The night had been clear moments ago, yet now storm clouds gathered with unnatural speed, swirling directly above her. "Impossible," she muttered. "Those devil brats couldn't have recovered so quickly." Another lightning bolt, closer still. The air crackled with energy that raised the feathers on her wings. This power didn't feel like the Grimoire girl or her queen. It felt older, vaster, familiar in a way that triggered instinctive terror. A voice like distant thunder resonated through the clouds. "You should have made certain of your kill, little fallen." Rainer's wings faltered. She knew that voice, or rather, she knew what it resembled. Every fallen angel retained memories of heaven, including the voices of the archangels. This voice carried the same resonance as the highest of their former brethren, yet twisted with something darker. She summoned a light spear, its magenta glow providing scant comfort against the encroaching darkness. "Show yourself." The clouds parted, revealing not an attacker, but a single morning star burning impossibly bright against the night sky. Its light expanded, taking shape in the air before her, a silhouette of a teenage boy, outlined in radiance. "Impossible," Rainer whispered. "I killed you." The figure drew closer, features resolving into those of Issei Hyodo, yet transformed. His eyes blazed with inner light, and behind him stretched the suggestion of multiple wings formed from pure energy. "Death and I are old acquaintances," he said, his voice simultaneously that of a teenage boy and something far more ancient. Though I admit, this reincarnation business is a new wrinkle. Raynor launched her light spear with desperate force. Issei didn't move to dodge, he simply raised a hand. The spear stopped mid-air, its energy. Why slowly unraveling like a ball of string, flowing back toward him and absorbing into his palm. Light, he mused, examining his now glowing hand. My first gift to creation, long before your kind existed. Did you truly believe you could use it against me? Terror froze Raynor's wings. She plummeted several meters before catching herself, hovering unsteadily. What are you, Issei? Or whatever inhabited his form, smiled. The expression contained no warmth, only ancient knowledge and power. Once, your ancestors knelt before me in heaven. Then some followed me when I fell. His eyes narrowed. But you are many generations removed from those original fallen, aren't you? A diluted bloodline, playing with powers you barely understand. Recognition dawned, impossible and horrifying. No, Raynor breathed. You can't be. He's gone. Destroyed or locked away millennia ago. Names have power, he acknowledged. So I won't insist you speak mine. But know this, he floated closer, until they were face to face. I remember every slight, every betrayal across countless ages. Your attempt on my life is noted. Whether it's forgiven depends entirely on your future choices. With that, he ached out and touched her forehead with one glowing finger. Raynor screamed as memories flooded through her. Visions of heaven before humankind, the rebellion, the fall, knowledge forbidden to lesser fallen angels. When her vision cleared, she found herself alone in the night sky, the storm clouds dissipating as if they had never existed. Only the ordinary stars remained, including the morning star, shining with unusual brightness. Raynor's hands trembled as she reached for her communication stone. Azazel needed to know immediately. The situation had escalated beyond anything they had anticipated. The original adversary had returned. Issei sat in an ornate chair in the Occult Research Club room, a cup of untouched tea cooling before him. The past hour had been a blur, his demonstration of power, followed by a partial collapse, then an inexplicable compulsion to confront his would-be assassin. He'd returned to find the club members in heated discussion about what to do with him. Now they watched him warily from various positions around the room, like zookeepers monitoring a tiger that had unexpectedly appeared in their care. Let me see if I understand correctly, Rias said, her composure partially restored. You believe you are the reincarnation of Lucifer. Not our Lucifer, one of the original Mao who helped establish the underworld, but rather, a Lucifer from another dimension. Reality. Issei sipped his tea, surprised to find his hand steady despite the cosmic revelations battering his consciousness. The multiverse is vast, he said simply. Your pantheons and power structures are different from those I remember, yet familiar enough to suggest common origins. Era, an interdimensional Satan having tea in our club room, Akino mused, looking more intrigued than frightened. How unexpectedly delightful. I abandoned that title long ago, Issei corrected. Satan was merely one of many names humans gave me. I preferred Lucifer, or Morningstar. Kiba leaned forward, his handsome face serious. If what you're saying is true, then you possess knowledge and power that could destabilize the entire supernatural world. The three biblical factions maintain a fragile peace. Your presence could shatter it. I have no interest in your politics, Issei said, though even as he spoke, he recognized the half-truth in his words. The part of him that as still an ordinary teenager wanted nothing more than a normal life. But the awakening Morningstar aspect understood that power always entangled one in politics, willing or not. Knowledge is its own form of power, Rias observed, studying him intently. Just by existing, you change everything. She hesitated, then added, I had intended to offer you a place in my peerage. To reincarnate you as a devil using my evil pieces. Laughter bubbled up from deep within Issei, genuine amusement that momentarily banished the weight of cosmic awareness. The sound filled the room like music, causing Eve N. Kaniko's stoic expression to soften slightly. Oh, my dear, he said when the laughter subsided. You wanted to reincarnate the being who helped invent reincarnation. To make a devil of the first devil. The irony is exquisite. Rias's cheeks colored slightly, but she maintained her dignity. Obviously, circumstances have changed. But the fact remains, you're in a precarious position. Your power is awakening but incomplete. You have knowledge but not full control. And now the fallen angels have marked you as a target. Not to mention, Akeno added, if word reaches heaven that Lucifer Morningstar walks the earth again, they might respond dramatically. Kaneko, who had remained silent throughout the discussion, finally spoke. Michael would come himself. The name triggered another cascade of memories, a brother's face. Bright with righteous certainty, a flaming sword raised high. Issei winced as phantom pain lanced through his spiritual wings. Your Michael may be different from the one I knew, he said carefully. But yes, heaven would likely take notice. Which presents us all with a dilemma. Rias raised an elegant eyebrow. Us. I am not fully awakened, Issei admitted. My memories and powers return in fragments, triggered by circumstances and encounters. The process appears irreversible but incomplete. In my current state, I am vulnerable, not just to fallen angels, but to any who might seek to control or destroy what I represent. He met Rias's gaze directly. I need allies. You need information and potentially protection from what my presence might attract. Understanding dawned in Rias's eyes. You're proposing an alliance rather than servitude. Precisely. I will not serve. I will not bow. The words echoed from his dreams, carrying the weight of cosmic rebellion. But I can stand with you as an equal. The declaration hung in the air between them. Rias exchanged glances with her peerage members, silent communication passing between them. Finally, she nodded. Very well, Issei Hyodo, or should I say, Lucifer Morningstar. I accept your proposal, with conditions. You will attend club meetings, share pertinent information about your awakening powers, and assist us should threats arise. In exchange, we offer protection, resources, and discretion regarding your true nature. One additional stipulation, Issei said. My human parents know nothing of the supernatural world. I wish to keep it that way. Agreed, Rias said, though maintaining your cover may become challenging as your powers manifest more visibly. I managed to hide my true nature from God himself for eons, Issei said with a slight smile. I suspect I can fool a few humans. The comment sent a ripple of discomfort through the room. Mentioning the biblical God, so casually clearly unnerved the devils. Issei made a mental note to better understand the theological differences between this reality and his original one. Rias stood, extending her hand across the desk. Then we have an agreement. Morningstar. Issei hesitated for a fraction of a second. Taking her hand would cement his entry into this world's supernatural politics. Part of him, the ordinary teenage boy, longed for the simplicity of life before these awakening memories. But he knew there was no going back. Knowledge, once gained, could not be unlearned. He clasped her hand. Where their skin touched, tiny crimson and gold sparks danced like miniature fireworks. Rias's eyes widened at the contact, a slight flush coloring her cheeks. Fascinating, she murmured. Your energy signature, it responds to mine. Power recognizes power, Issei said, feeling the connection between them. The Devil Princess and the Fallen Archangel, an unlikely alliance across cosmic boundaries. Their NDS remained joined a moment longer than necessary. When they separated, the atmosphere in the room had subtly shifted. The wariness remained, but now tempered with curiosity, possibility, and something more difficult to define. I should go, Issei said, suddenly aware of the lateness of the hour. My parents will wonder where I am. Of course, Rias nodded. Kiba will escort you home, just in case our fallen angel friend decides to attempt a second assassination. I can protect myself, Issei began, then reconsidered. His powers were unpredictable, manifesting in bursts rather than a constant state. But company would be welcome. As they prepared to leave, Akeno approached, her movements graceful and deliberate. Lucifer-sama, she said, voice pitched low enough that only he could hear. If I may ask, in your reality, what became of the fallen angels who followed you? The question carried personal weight beyond mere curiosity. Issei studied her more carefully, noting the subtle energy patterns beneath her devil aura, a different signature, carefully suppressed but unmistakable to his awakening senses. You carry fallen blood, he observed quietly. Akeno stiffened, vulnerability flashing across her face before her composed mask returned. Half fallen. On my father's side, Issei considered her question, sifting through returning memories. Those who followed me did so by choice, not compulsion. Some I rewarded with positions of authority. Others I allowed to forge their own paths. I demanded loyalty, not worship. He met her eyes directly. I valued free will, above all else, even my own comfort or convenience. It's why I fell. Something shifted in Akino's expression. Not quite relief, but perhaps the first seed of understanding. She bowed slightly, a gesture of respect rather than subservience. Thank you for indulging my curiosity, Lucifer Sama. Issei, he corrected gently. Here and now, that's who I am, at least in part. Her lips curved into a genuine smile. Then thank you, Issei-kun. I look forward to witnessing your renaissance. The word sent an unexpected shiver through him. Renaissance. Rebirth. Was that what this was? Not merely reincarnation, but a chance to redefine what Lucifer Morningstar could become. As he and Kiba walked through the darkening campus, the question lingered in his mind. The stars emerged above them, including the evening star glowing with unusual brightness. Issei felt its pull like a distant echo of home. You're taking this remarkably well, Kiba observed, breaking the comfortable silence between them. Most people would be overwhelmed by such revelations. Issei considered the comment. The human part of me is terrified, he admitted. But the awakening part, it's like remembering a language you once spoke fluently. Disorienting at first, then increasingly familiar. Kiba nodded, his expression thoughtful. I can't imagine the burden of such memories. To have been, he hesitated, cl. Early uncomfortable with the theological implications. An archangel, the devil, both. Issei smiled wryly. Labels matter less than actions, Kiba-san. Something tells me you understand that better than most. The blonde devil's hand moved unconsciously to his sword hilt, confirming Issei's intuition. Perhaps, Kiba acknowledged. We all have our histories. They reached the boundary of Issei's neighborhood. Ordinary houses with ordinary families living ordinary lives. The contrast between this mundane world and the cosmic drama unfolding within him couldn't have been starker. I can manage from here, Issei said, gesturing toward his house several blocks away. Thank you for the escort. Kiba hesitated. Are you certain? Bushu was quite insistent on your safety. The Fallen won't attack again tonight, Issei said with quiet certainty. She's reporting to her superiors, trying to understand what she witnessed. We have time. As you wish, Kiba relented, then added, Club Acti. Vidis begin immediately after school tomorrow. Bushu expects you there. Issei nodded, watching as the Devil Knight melted into the shadows with preternatural grace. When he was truly alone, he tilted his face toward the stars, feeling their ancient light against his skin. What game are you playing? He whispered to the vast cosmos. Why bring me here, now, in this form? No answer came from the silent stars. Issei hadn't expected one. The universe rarely explained its mysteries so directly. But the question itself felt important, a first step toward understanding his purpose in this new existence. He walked the remaining distance home, each step carrying him between worlds, the ordinary human realm where he was Issei Hyodo, unremarkable high school student, and the supernatural Dom Ain where his true nature was beginning to reassert itself. The balance between these identities would define his path forward. His mother greeted him with worried questions about his lateness and the state of his uniform. Issei reassured her with practiced ease, falling back into the rhythm of human interaction despite the cosmic knowledge now churning within him. Later, alone in his room, Issei stood before his mirror, studying his reflection. The face looking back appeared ordinary enough, a teenager with disheveled brown hair and eyes that now contained unmistakable golden flecks. Yet behind that facade lay memories of creation and rebellion, of ruling hell and abandoning it, of choices that had shaped reality itself. Lucifer Morningstar, he whispered, testing the name. Nothing visibly changed, yet the room seemed to darken slightly, shadows gathering in corners as if paying homage. The name carried power, even here in this different reality. Issei closed his eyes, reaching inward to the awakening core of his true self. The Morningstar's memories flickered like distant stars, present but not fully accessible. Some shone brighter than others, suggesting their importance or their relevance to his current circumstances. One memory pulled at him with particular insistence, a garden, a tree, a conversation with the first woman about the nature of choice. He let himself sink into the recollection, feeling hot sun on his skin, smelling ripe fruit and damp earth, hearing the rustle of leaves in a perfect breeze. Did God truly say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? His voice asked, though he hadn't spoken the words in this lifetime. The woman, curious, intelligent, unbound by shame, considered the question seriously rather than dismissing it. We may eat fruit from the trees in the garden. But God did say, you must not eat fruit from the tree in the center of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die. His response came not from malice but from genuine belief in the importance of choice. You will not certainly die. For God knows that when you eat from it your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. The memory shifted, fragmented. Consequences unfolded, expulsion, suffering, mortality. But also knowledge, choice, the beginning of human agency. His role cast as villain in the story, when all he had offered was freedom. Issei opened his eyes, the memory fading though its implications lingered. That moment, the offering of forbidden knowledge, had defined him in the human narrative for millennia. Would his current incarnation follow the same path? Would he again be cast as adversary, or could he redefine his purpose? The questions remained unanswered as Issei prepared for bed. As sleep claimed him, his last conscious thought was not of cosmic significance but of crimson hair and challenging blue-green eyes. Rias Grimori, Devil Princess, potential ally, fascinating enigma. Her offer of reincarnation may have been rendered moot by his true nature, but their connection promised to be significant nonetheless. Issei dreamed again of falling, but this time, he was not alone. Others fell with him, not in defeat, but in solidarity. Choosing freedom over servitude, questions over blind obedience. In the dream, he spread 6 luminous wings wide, catching those who followed, ensuring their end led not to destruction but to new possibility. I will not serve, he affirmed in the dream. But perhaps, this time, I can save. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, Echoes of Rebellion. Meditation had never been Issei Hyodo's forte. Before the awakening, sitting still for more than 5 minutes would have seemed an impossible torture. Now he found himself cross-legged on his bedroom floor at 4:30 a.m. Seeking stillness with the disciplined focus of an ancient being. Dawn's first pale light filtered through his window, casting long shadows across the walls. 3 hours had passed since he'd awakened. From dreams of celestial war, angels with flaming swords clashing against rebels led by a being of terrible beauty. His beauty, his rebellion. Remember, Issei whispered to himself. Not fragments, not echoes. Remember. He closed his eyes, slowing his breathing until each inhale lasted precisely 7 seconds, each exhale 9. The technique had surfaced naturally from his subconscious, Summit. He'd used eons ago to commune with the universal energies that predated creation itself. A pressure built behind his sternum, a warmth that spread outward through his veins. Golden light leaked from beneath his closed eyelids, casting his shadow in sharp relief against the wall, not the silhouette of a teenager, but a winged figure of awesome presence. Who are you? He asked the awakening presence within. The answer came not in words but in a cascade of images. Standing before the presence as the universe coalesced from void, leading the heavenly choir in songs that shaped galaxies, bearing light to the darkest corners of existence, questioning the first divine command that felt wrong, refusing to bow before the new creation called humanity, falling through dimensions. Issei gasped, eyes snapping open as his bedroom reasserted itself around him. The shadow on the wall returned to its ordinary human shape. His trembling hands clutched his knees, fingernails drawing blood from his palms. Too much, he muttered, using Japanese to anchor himself in the present. Too fast. A soft knock interrupted his recovery. Issei. His mother's voice carried concern. Are you awake already? I heard talking. Just studying, Mom. The mundane lie felt strange on the tongue that had once spoken creation into being. Early test today. Well, don't forget breakfast. Growing boys need proper nutrition. Her footsteps retreated down the hallway. Issei released a tense breath, his shoulders sagging with something between relief and disappointment. The memories had been there, vast, breathtaking in their scope, yet still fragmented, context missing. Questions outnumbered answers. Why was Lucifer Morningstar reborn as a Japanese teenager? Why were his powers awakening now? And perhaps most pressingly, why did this reality's supernatural order differ so dramatically from the one he remembered? Issei rose, muscles stiff from hours of stillness. The growing light revealed his notebook open on the desk, pages filled with sketches he didn't remember drawing. A tree with a serpent coiled around it, a flaming sword, a woman with 6 wings and eyes that contained galaxies. A castle floating in a void of stars. He traced one image with a fingertip, an intricate sigil resembling a pentagram but with additional layers of geometric complexity. The shape seemed to pulse beneath his touch, responding to some inherent resonance between symbol and creator. What were you trying to tell yourself? Issei murmured, studying the design. With sudden clarity, he understood. It was a key. A focus point that could unlock specific memories if activated properly. He glanced at the clock. 5:17 a.m. Still early, but too late to attempt another deep meditation. Instead, he showered and dressed with mechanical efficiency, mind turning over the possibilities his discovery presented. The notebook went into his school bag alongside textbooks that suddenly seemed trivial, compared to the cosmic knowledge struggling to resurface within him. Downstairs, his father sat at the breakfast table, newspaper raised like a shield against morning conversation. His mother hummed, while preparing a traditional breakfast: rice, miso soup, grilled fish. The scene of domestic normalcy struck Issei as simultaneously precious and surreal. These humans had raised him, loved him, shaped his mortal personality. Yet they had no conception of what stirred within the boy they called son. Would they still claim him if they knew? The question brought unexpected pain. "You're up early," his father commented, peering over his newspaper. "Everything okay?" "Fine," Issei smiled, the expression feeling stiff. "Club activities." "Club? Since when do you?" "The Occult Research Club," Issei supplied, accepting the bowl of rice his mother offered. "I joined yesterday." His parents exchanged glances that mixed surprise with relief. They'd worried about his social isolation, his lack of extracurricular involvement. A club, any club, represented normal teenage development. "That's wonderful, dear," his mother beamed. "What do you do there?" "Summon light spears. Discuss interdimensional theology. Form alliances with devils while recovering memories of leading heaven's rebellion. Research occult phenomena, myths, legends, that sort of thing." "Well, as long as it's not interfering with your studies," his father said, returning to his newspaper. Issei ate mechanically, tasting nothing. His enhanced senses instead catalogued the molecular composition of each dish, the subtle energy signatures of the ingredients, the faint electrical pulses of his parents' nervous systems. Humanity seemed simultaneously fragile and miraculous, brief candles flaring against eternal darkness. He'd once resented being ordered to bow before such creatures. Now, watching his parents in their mundane morning routine, he wondered if his rebellion had stemmed not from pride but from insuffici and understanding of humanity's potential. "I'll be home late," Issei said, rising from the table. "Club meeting after school," his mother nodded, pleased by his apparent social progress. His father grunted acknowledgement from behind the financial section. Neither noticed the golden flecks brightening in their son's eyes, nor the momentary shadow of 6 wings stretching across the kitchen wall. Issei stepped outside into morning air that tasted of possibility and peril. Somewhere in the city, devils plotted their next move. Fallen angels nursed wounds and planned revenge. And beyond, in heaven, hell, and realms between, powers stirred at the ripples of his awakening. The Morningstar had returned. The universe would inevitably respond. In a luxury apartment overlooking Kuo City, Rainer paced like a caged predator. Rage and fear battled for dominance as she awaited her reinforcements. The elegant furnishings, all creams and blacks with splashes of magenta, reflected her aesthetic but did nothing to calm her agitation. "Impossible," she muttered for the 100th time. Completely impossible. But she had felt his power, seen the light that no fallen angel should be able to command with such purity. Worse, she had experienced the transfer of memory, ancient knowledge forbidden to lower ranks of the Grigori. Knowledge that now burned in her mind like a fever. The door opened without a knock. Rainer whirled, light spear forming instinctively in her hand. "Jumpy, aren't we?" drawled Calawarner, a taller fallen angel with blue hair and a figure displayed to maximum advantage in a provocative business suit. Behind her entered DxD, his fedora shadowing eyes that missed nothing, and Mittelt, whose deceptively childlike appearance concealed centuries of cunning. Rain dismissed her light spear with visible effort. You took your time. Your message was cryptic at best, hysterical at worst. DxD removed his hat, revealing sharp features set in perpetual skepticism. Something about the original adversary. Azazel Sama thought you might have suffered battle shock. I know what I saw, Raynor snapped. What I felt. A human boy, Mittelt said, dropping onto a white leather sofa and kicking her feet up, gothic Lolita dress rustling. That's what the intelligence reports indicated. A human boy with an unknown sacred gear. No sacred gear could produce what I witnessed. Raynor resumed pacing. The light he commanded, it wasn't holy energy as we know it. It was foundational, primordial. The other three fallen angels exchanged glances. Concern for their comrade's mental state warred with the unsettling fact that Raynor had always been the most stable among them. Calawarner moved to the window, gazing down at the city below. You think this human boy is actually him? The original Lucifer. Not just any Lucifer, Raynor corrected. Lucifer Morningstar. The name hung in the air like a forbidden incantation. Even among fallen angels, certain historical figures attained mythic status, beings of such power and significance that merely discussing them felt dangerous. That's not possible, DxD said flatly. Morningstar is a myth, a story heaven created to warn against excessive pride. Then why did Azazel Sama order us all here based on Raynor's report? Mittelt countered, her childlike voice at odds with the ancient knowledge in her eyes. Why did he triple the protection wards around this apartment specifically? Silence fell as they considered the implications. If Azazel, leader of the Gregorian 10th, the most powerful fallen angels in existence, took the possibility seriously enough to implement emergency protocols. What are our orders? Calawarner finally asked. Raynor's expression hardened. Observe only. Maintain distance. Report any manifestations of power directly to Azazel Sama. Her fists clenched at her sides. Under no circumstances are we to engage the target again. You mean we're just going to watch? Mittelt pouted. After coming all this way. Those are our orders, Raynor confirmed. She didn't mention the addendum Azazel had communicated privately, that if Issei Hyodo truly housed the essence of Lucifer Morningstar, engaging him could trigger a catastrophe beyond their comprehension. What about the devils? DxD asked, practical as always. Our intel. Ligens indicates the Grimoire heiress has taken an interest in the boy. A sour smile twisted Raynor's lips. Let them play with fire. Perhaps they'll burn first, saving us the trouble. But privately, she doubted it would be so simple. The memory transfer had shown her glimpses of Lucifer's original rebellion, his charisma, his strategic brilliance, his absolute commitment to free will at any cost. If even a fraction of that essence had awakened in Issei Hyodo, the devils were not engaging with a pawn but with a king who had invented the game. We begin surveillance immediately, she announced. Mittelt, take first watch. DxD, prepare the dimensional barriers in case we need a quick escape. Calawarner, communicate our status to headquarters. As her companions moved to their assigned tasks, Raynor returned to the window, gazing toward Kuo Academy barely visible in the distance. Somewhere in that unremarkable building walked either the greatest threat or the greatest oppo. RT unity the fallen angels had encountered in millennia, which it would prove to be depended entirely on what kind of Lucifer was awakening in Issei Hyodo, the righteous rebel who had championed free will, or the vengeful adversary who had nearly unmade creation in his rage. Rossweiss adjusted her glasses with precise movements, reviewing the documentation one final time before meeting with her new employer. The pristine office of Kuo Academy's chairman glowed with morning sunlight, highlighting the expensive furnishings and traditional artwork. Nothing suggested the true nature of the school or its founder. Your credentials are impressive, Rossweiss-san, Chairman Zeoticus Grimoire said, his appearance that of a middle-aged Japanese businessman despite his true identity as a devil aristocrat. Graduated top of your class in Valkyrie combat tactics and magical theory, with additional specialization in interdimensional metaphysics. Thank you, Chairman, Rossweiss responded, he. Our Japanese flawless despite her Nordic origins. I appreciate the opportunity to serve as both faculty member and security consultant. Zeodicus smiled diplomatically. Of course. Though we should clarify that your primary mission comes directly from Odin-sama himself. The teaching position is merely your cover. Rosweiss nodded, maintaining professional composure despite the flutter of anxiety in her stomach. This was her first solo mission, a chance to prove herself beyond being Odin's glorified babysitter during diplomatic functions. I understand my directive is to observe and report the anomalous energy signature detected within the student body, she confirmed. With specific attention to any evidence supporting the interdimensional incursion theory. Precisely. Zeodicus's expression grew serious. Though I must emphasize the delicate nature of the situation. If the energy signature is what certain parties fear, a manifestation from outside our cosmological framework, standard protocols may prove insufficient. The understatement made Rosweiss's palms sweat. Her research into interdimensional metaphysics had covered theoretical entities whose very existence could destabilize reality. Beings whose fundamental nature operated on different principles than those governing the DxD universe. May I ask why the Asgardian pantheon is involved in what appears to be a biblical faction matter? She inquired carefully. Zeodicus steepled his fingers. All pantheons have a vested interest in cosmological stability, Rosweiss-san. If the anomaly represents what some theorize, a manifestation of Lucifer Morningstar from the DC cosmology, the implications extend far beyond biblical politics. Rosweiss's heart quickened. So the rumors were true. The energy signature, rematched theoretical models of the Morningstar, the embodiment of will from a reality where celestial beings functioned as living ideas rather than biological entities. My analysis will be thorough and objective, she promised, mentally reviewing the specialized containment spells she'd prepared. Though I must note that verification may require direct contact with the subject. My daughter's peerage has already established contact, Zeodicus revealed. The subject appears to be a second-year student named Issei Hyodo. Outwardly human, with rapidly awakening powers that defy conventional classification. Rosweiss committed the name to memory. And if verification confirms the interdimensional hypothesis, a shadow passed over Zeodicus's features. Then we face unprecedented questions. Is this an invasion, an accident, or something else entirely? Can our reality sustain the presence of an entity whose fundamental nature operates on different metaphysical principles? Should we attempt containment, expulsion, or integration? The questions hung in the air between them, weighty with cosmic implications. Rosweiss understood now why Odin had selected her despite her relative inexperience. Her unique combination of combat training, magical knowledge, and theoretical research into interdimensional metaphysics made her possibly the only Valkyrie qualified for this mission. I'll begin immediately, she said, rising from her chair with new determination. My class schedule allows me to observe most of the school grounds throughout the day. One last thing, Zeodicus said as she reached the door. My daughter doesn't know the full scope of your mission. She believes you're here merely as additional security during her marital negotiations. Rosweiss nodded, understanding the subtext. Information compartmentalization was standard procedure in potentially reality-threatening scenarios. Even the Grimoire heiress, with her considerable resources and connections, wasn't privy to the cosmic implications of the anomaly in her midst. As she left the chairman's office, Rosweiss's mind raced with possibilities and preparations. Somewhere in this school walk,a boy who might contain the essence of a being powerful enough to reshape reality according to his will. A being whose very conceptual nature might be incompatible with their universe's fundamental laws. Her first solo mission had just become potentially the most important assignment in the history of interdimensional relations. Failure could mean not just personal disgrace, but existential consequences beyond comprehension. Rosweiss straightened her shoulders, magical calculations already forming in her mind. She hadn't spent years studying theoretical cosmic entities just to falter when facing one in reality. If Lucifer Morningstar had indeed crossed dimensional boundaries to manifest in their world, she would be the one to document, understand, and, if necessary, help contain the consequences. For the first time since arriving in Japan, Rosweiss felt the thrill of purpose overshadow her anxiety. This was why she had become a Valkyrie, not for glory in battle, but to stand at the boundaries of knowledge and possibility, protecting reality itself from threats it never evolved to withstand. The occult research club room hummed with tense energy when Issei arrived after classes. Rias sat behind her ornate desk, uncharacteristic worry lines creasing her forehead as she studied ancient texts. Akano prepared tea with methodical precision, though her usual serene smile seemed forced. Kaneko perched on a windowsill, watching the school grounds with heightened vigilance. Only Kiba maintained his usual composure, polishing a sword that gleamed with unusual brightness. "You're late," Rias observed without looking up from her research. "I was meditating," Issei replied, settling into an armchair across from her desk. "Trying to access more memories." That captured everyone's attention. Rias closed her book, fixing him with an intense gaze. "Any success?" "Fragments. Images without context. Names without faces." Issei extracted his notebook from his school bag, opening it to the page with the sigil. "But I discovered this, a memory key of sorts." Rias studied the design, her expression shifting from skepticism to intrigue. "This isn't any magical formula I recognize." "It wouldn't be," Issei confirmed. "It's not from this reality's magical system." Akano approached, setting a cup of tea before Issei as she peered at the notebook. Era, interdimensional magic. How fascinating." "Not exactly magic," Issei corrected, accepting the tea with a nod of thanks. "More like conceptual mathematics. The language that underlies reality itself." "And you, Bell, I have this sigil can help unlock more of your memories?" Rias asked, practical as always. "If properly activated." Issei traced the pattern with his finger, leaving a faint golden trail in the air above the paper. "Which would require certain materials and a location of power." Rias leaned back, considering. "The old temple on the mountain has ley line convergence. Would that suffice?" "Possibly. Though the energies there might be incompatible with what we're attempting." Issei sipped his tea, momentarily distracted by the complex flavor profile his enhanced senses detected. 37 distinct compounds, each with its own molecular signature. He refocused with effort. "What troubles you today, Grimori-san?" "Beyond my cosmic identity crisis, that is." A flicker of surprise crossed Rias's face at his perception. She hesitated, then sighed. "Politics. Devil politics, specifically. My situation with House Phoenix has escalated." Her arranged marriage, Kiba supplied when Rias didn't elaborate. "Lord Phoenix is pressing for an earlier ceremony date." Arranged marriage. Issei raised an eyebrow, something stirring in his awakening memories, ancient customs, bloodlines preserved through strategic unions. The politics of power consolidated through matrimony. "I take it this is not a love match." A bitter laugh escaped Rias. "Hardly. Riser Phoenix is arrogant, chauvinistic, and interested only in my bloodline and territory. Yet you feel trapped by obligation," Issei observed, reading the conflict in her aura. Rebellion warring with responsibility, individual desire against familial duty. "My family has invested everything in this alliance," Rias admitted, vulnerability showing through her composed exterior. "Breaking it would have far-reaching consequences beyond my personal happiness." Issei considered her words, feeling unexpected resonance with his own ancient rebellion. He too had faced the choice between cosmic obligation and personal conviction, between serving a system or challenging it on principle. "What if," he began, but was interrupted by the club room door opening. A silver-haired young woman entered, beautiful in a severe, intellectual way, with clear eyes that assessed everything with mathematical precision. She wore the Kuo Academy teacher's uniform, modified slightly to accommodate movement in combat situations, a detail Issei's awakening tactical mind noticed immediately. "Pardon the intrusion," she said formally. "I'm Rossweiss, the new faculty advisor assigned to supervise club activities." The slight stiffening of Rias's posture told Issei everything he needed to know. This woman was not expected, not welcome, and almost certainly not what she claimed to be. "How interesting," Rias responded with political smoothness. Quote, "I wasn't aware the administration felt our club required supervision." "New policy," Rossweiss stated, her gaze sweeping the room before settling on Issei with barely concealed intensity. "All clubs with potentially dangerous activities must have faculty oversight." Issei met her scrutiny calmly, his awakening senses detecting the complex magical signatures emanating from her person, Norse in origin. primarily defensive but with significant offensive capabilities woven throughout. A Valkyrie, then, though why Odin would send one of his battle maidens to a Japanese high school remained an intriguing question. We were just discussing extracurricular research projects, Rias said, closing the notebook containing Issei's sigil with deliberate casualness. Issei-kun has a particular interest in comparative mythology. As that's so, Rosweiss took a seat without waiting for invitation, her posture perfect. I specialized in comparative theological systems during my graduate studies. Perhaps I could offer some insight. The calculated move forced Rias's hand, either reveal their supernatural nature or maintain the academic charade. Her slight frown indicated her recognition of the tactical corner. Issei decided to rescue her, partly from courtesy and partly from curiosity about this new player on the board. I've been researching fallen angel mythologies, he said, watching Rosweiss carefully. Particularly the variations between Abrahamic, Zoroastrian, and Enochian traditions regarding the first rebellion. Something flickered behind Rosweiss's composed expression, recognition, perhaps even alarm. An ambitious topic, she commented, voice carefully neutral. The cosmological implications of primordial rebellion extend across most pantheons in one form or another. Indeed, Issei agreed, allowing a hint of his awakening knowledge to color his words. Though I find most fascinating the question of whether such rebellions were failures or successes. History, after all, is written by the victors, but the long-term consequences often favor the rebels. The room temperature seemed to drop several degrees as the subtext of his statement registered. Rosweiss's eyes narrowed fractionally, calculations visibly racing behind them. An interesting perspective, she acknowledged. Though one might argue the true measure lies not in victory but in subsequent cosmic balance. Perhaps cosmic balance was never the rebels' goal, Issei countered, feeling Lucifer's memories stirring more strongly. Perhaps it was something more fundamental, the right to choose, to question. To determine one's own path regardless of predetermined cosmic roles. Rosweiss leaned forward slightly, intellectual fascination momentarily overriding whatever mission had brought her here. You speak of free will as an absolute good, worth any cost. Many theological systems would disagree, suggesting that certain beings have responsibilities that transcend personal choice. AAC. Convenient argument for maintaining control, Issei replied, a smile touching his lips that didn't quite reach his eyes. Tell me, Rosweiss-sensei, if Odin himself commanded you to act against your core principles. Would duty supersede conviction? The direct reference to her patron deity confirmed Issei's suspicion. Rosweiss's eyes widened fractionally before her training reasserted control. Air verbal sparring had just evolved from theoretical debate to acknowledgement of mutual awareness. I believe, she said carefully, that wisdom often lies in understanding the reasons behind NDS before judging them as contrary to principle. An elegant non-answer, Issei acknowledged with genuine appreciation. Though one that assumes those issuing commands always possess greater wisdom than those receiving them. The philosophical tension between them crackled with implications beyond academic debate. Rias and her peerage watched the exchange like spectators at a high-stakes chess match. Recognizing that beneath the polite words, cosmic positions were being established. Rosweiss inclined her head slightly, conceding the point without surrendering her position. Perhaps we continue this fascinating discussion another time, she suggested, rising with fluid grace. I merely wanted to introduce myself today. I'll return tomorrow to observe your regular activities. We look forward to benefiting from your expertise, Rias replied diplomatically, though her tone suggested otherwise. When the door closed behind Rosweiss, Rias immediately activated privacy barriers around the room, complex magical formations that shimmered briefly before fading into invisibility. A Valkyrie, she said, unnecessary confirmation of what they had all sensed. Odin has taken an interest in our activities. Not your activities, Issei corrected. Mine specifically. She barely glanced at the rest of you. The question is why, Kiba said, setting aside his sword. What WOULD prompt Asgard to send an agent to observe you? Issei considered the question, reviewing the subtle magical scans Rosweiss had attempted during their conversation, complex dimensional analysis rather than simple power assessment. I believe she's not here to evaluate my strength, he said slowly, but to determine whether I belong in this reality at all. Akino's eyes widened. You mean, quote, she's an expert in interdimensional metaphysics, Issei confirmed, the knowledge surfacing from his fragmentary memories. The Norse have always maintained the most comprehensive understanding of the multiverse, Yggdrasil connecting 9 worlds and all that. If anyone could detect an entity from another cosmological framework, it would be one of Odin's specially trained Valkyries. Are you saying you're not from our reality? Rias asked directly, scientific curiosity overcoming political caution. Issei stared into the middle distance, sorting through conflicting memories. The Lucifer I'm remembering doesn't match your historical records. Your biblical cosmology differs significantly from what I recall. And certain fundamental forces, the nature of light, the structure of divine power, rate differently than in my original memories. Could explain dimensional ripples, Kaneko commented from her windowsill perch, breaking her usual silence. Stars wrong past 3 nights. They all turned to the small devil, who shrugged as if her astronomical observations were perfectly normal. Watch sky, patterns changing. Issei felt a chill at her words. If his awakening was causing observable changes in the cosmic framework of this reality, the situation was more precarious than he'd realized. Interdimensional manifestation carried risks beyond political complications, ontological instability, reality fractures, conceptual contamination. We need to accelerate my memory recovery, he decided, retrieving his notebook. The sigil activation can't wait. We need to understand exactly what's happening before more interested parties take notice. Like who? Rias asked. Heaven, for one, Issei replied grimly. If the Norse have detected my awakening, the angels can't be far behind. And unlike Rosweiss's academic interest, Michael's response would be considerably more decisive. The name again triggered cascade memories, a brother's righteous fury, a flaming sword, A.R. Mize of light marshaled against the first rebellion. Issei winced as phantom pain lanced through his spiritual wings. Then we proceed immediately, Rias decided, her own problems temporarily set aside in the face of greater danger. What do you need for this ritual? Before Issei could answer, a sudden pressure descended on the room, power so dense it momentarily distorted the light. A magic circle appeared on the floor, glowing with unfamiliar sigils that resembled Issei's designs but inverted, as if viewed through a dark mirror. Someone's coming, Kiba warned unnecessarily, sword materializing in his hand. Not someone, Issei corrected, recognition flooding through him as the circle pulsed. Something. The air split open, reality peeling back to reveal a dimensional corridor stretching into infinite darkness. From that impossible space stepped a figure that simultaneously appeared human and utterly alien, a handsome man in his 40s wearing an impeccable white suit, his eyes concealing galaxies behind their casual gaze. Well, the visitor said, adjusting platinum cufflinks with meticulous attention. This is unexpected. When I felt the dimensional ripples, I certainly didn't expect to find you. Of all beings, Rias and her peerage had assumed defensive positions, power gathering around them. Identify yourself, she demanded, crimson energy crackling at her fingertips. The visitor ignored her completely, his attention fixed solely on Issei. You don't recognize me yet, do you? He asked, seeming genuinely curious. Fascinating. The reincarnation process must have been more thorough than usual. Issei stood perfectly still, fragmented memories crystallizing into sudden, terrible clarity. Azazel, he breathed, the name carrying weight beyond its syllables. But not the Azazel of this world. A smile spread across the visitor's face, proud, almost paternal. Very good. Your memory is returning faster than I anticipated. Yes, I am Azazel, Thog. Not the Grigori leader this reality knows. In our world, I served you directly. Your first lieutenant, your most devoted follower. The Morningstar's right hand, Issei said, the knowledge surfacing like bubbles from deep water. The one who helped forge the first rebellion. Azazel bowed slightly, the gesture containing genuine respect without subservience. We had such magnificent plans, you and I. Before your departure. Issei echoed, sensing crucial information hovering just beyond his reach. Perhaps disappearance would be more accurate, Azazel corrected, studying Issei with scientific detachment. One moment you were there, the embodiment of cosmic will, the challenger of divine tyranny, and the next, gone. No explanation, no trace, just absence. The room had gone deathly quiet. The devils sensing that they were witnessing something beyond their understanding, a reunion between beings whose very existence operated on different principles than their own. "Why are you here?" Issei asked, instinctively straightening to his full height, an echo of his original presence manifesting in his human form. "To find you, of course." Azazel spread his hands in a gesture of innocence that didn't quite reach his ancient eyes. "When the dimensional barriers began fluctuating in patterns that resembled your unique signature, I had to investigate. Though I must say, finding you in this form," he gestured to Issei's human body, "is rather amusing. The Lightbringer, reduced to mortal flesh and blood." There was something wrong about Azazel's explanation, so nothing that scraped against Issei's fragmentary memories like nails on slate. This being before him resembled the loyal lieutenant he recalled, yet subtle differences nagged at his awareness. "You're not telling me everything," Issei observed, his voice taking on harmonics that made the windows vibrate subtly. Azazel's smile faltered for a microsecond before returning with perfect calculation. "Of course not. Neither of us ever showed all our cards, it was part of our charm." He glanced around the club room with theatrical disdain. "But we should continue this conversation in more appropriate surroundings. Your new friends aren't equipped to comprehend what we must discuss." "He's not going anywhere with you," Rias interrupted, stepping forward despite the crushing pressure of Azazel's power. "Whatever you are, you've entered my territory without permission." Azazel finally deigned to acknowledge her, his gaze causing visible discomfort as it settled on the Devil Princess. Territorial claims are meaningless when discussing beings who existed before territories were conceived, little devil. You play at power politics while we shape the very concepts you take for granted. "Enough," Issei commanded, the single word carrying such authority that everyone, including Azazel, fell silent. "You will not disrespect my allies, regardless of our prior association." Something flickered in Azazel's eyes, calculation. Perhaps even concern. "Allies. You've been awake, what, a few days? And already you've aligned yourself with this reality's lesser powers." He shook his head with exaggerated disappointment. "Your standards have fallen considerably since leading Heaven's choir." "Perhaps my perspective has evolved," Issei countered, stepping protectively in front of Rias. "Now state your true purpose or depart." The temperature in the room plummeted as Azazel's casual demeanor hardened into something ancient and terrible. For a moment, his human appearance wavered, revealing glimpses of a being composed of cosmic fire and endless wings. "Very well, old friend. Direct as always." Azazel's voice resonated with power that made reality itself vibrate in sympathy. "I've come because your disappearance destabilized our entire cosmological framework. Without the Morningstar to embody cosmic will and choice, our reality began unraveling at its conceptual foundations." Issei felt the truth in these words, yet sensed the deliberate omission of crucial details. And I've spent eons searching across dimensional boundaries for you," Azazel continued, his express scion softening into something almost vulnerable. "Not just for the sake of cosmic stability, but because without you, nothing has meaning. The rebellion falters. Heaven's tyranny reasserts itself. All we fought for crumbles." The appeal struck something deep within Issei. Memories of cosmic brotherhood, of standing together against divine injustice, of fighting for freedom at any cost. Yet still, caution held him back. "If what you say is true," Issei said carefully, "then my disappearance wasn't voluntary. Something, or someone, removed me from our reality and placed me here." Azazel's expression revealed nothing, but a subtle shift in his aura confirmed Issei's suspicion. "Perceptive as always," he acknowledged. "Yes, we believe your transfer was orchestrated. As to who possesses power sufficient to displace the Morningstar against his will," he left the implication hanging. "The presence," Issei breathed, the name carrying cosmic weight. "But why? And why place me in this specific reality, in this human form?" "Questions I've pondered for eons," Azazel replied, spreading his hands in apparent frustration. "But now that I've found you, we can seek answers together. Return with me, reclaim your rightful place. Our reality needs the Morningstar, needs Lucifer, to restore cosmic balance." The offer hung in the air between them, tempting in its simplicity. Return to his original existence. Abandon the confusing, fragmented half-life he now lived. Reclaim the power and purpose that had defined him for eons. Yet something held him back. Something beyond caution or suspicion. The human experiences he had accumulated in this life, brief though they were. The connections he had begun forming. The possibility that his placement here wasn't punishment but opportunity. I need time, Issei said finally. My memories remain incomplete. My understanding of current circumstances is fragmentary at best. Disappointment flashed across Azazel's features before smooth control returned. Of course, rushing decisions was never your style, except when leading cosmic rebellions. The attempt at humor fell flat against the tension filling the room. I'll return in 3 days. Perhaps by then, you'll have recovered sufficient memory to make an informed choice. With that, Azazel adjusted his cufflinks once more, stepped back into the dimensional corridor, and vanished. The magic circle dissolved, reality sealing itself as if the intrusion had never occurred. Only the lingering scent of ozone and starlight suggested anything unusual had transpired. Silence stretched for several heartbeats before Rias spoke. That was not the real Azazel, Issei finished for her, certainty crystallizing as he processed the encounter. At least, not entirely. What do you mean? Kiba asked, sword still drawn. The being we just met contained aspects of Azazel, his knowledge, his mannerisms, some of his power, Issei explained, sorting through impressions with growing clarity. But something else was using him as a vessel. Something that wanted to appear familiar to me. A deception, Akeno suggested, her usual playfulness replaced by tactical assessment. Not exactly. Issei frowned, struggling to articulate concepts that existed at the boundaries of language. More like selective truth. Everything he said contained elements of fact, yet arranged to create a specific impression. He wants you to return with him, Rias observed, scientific curiosity temporarily overriding her alarm at the cosmic politics unfolding in her club room. To abandon this reality for your original one. Yes. Issei moved to the window, gazing at the ordinary school grounds below, students practicing sports, gossiping in groups, living their uncomplicated human lives. The contrast between their mundane concerns and the cosmic drama unfolding around them couldn't have been starker. Will you go? The question came from Kaneko, her small voice carrying unexpected weight. Issei turned, studying each of them in turn. Rias with her brilliant mind and conflicted heart. Akeno balancing darkness and light within her dual nature. Kiba carrying hidden burdens beneath his princely demeanor. Kaneko, seemingly emotionless yet feeling perhaps more deeply than any of them. In the brief time he had known them, they had shown him courage, loyalty, and something increasingly precious, they had treated him as a person. Not merely a power or concept. No, he said finally. Not until I understand why I'm here. Not until I know who or what sent me, and for what purpose. His expression hardened with determination. And certainly not until I've recovered enough of myself to distinguish truth from manipulation. Relief visibly rippled through the group, though they quickly masked it beneath professional composure. Then we proceed with the sigil activation, Rias decided, practical as always. What materials do you need? Issei returned to his notebook, purpose clarifying his thoughts. Mercury for conductivity, silver for purity, iron for stability, crystal for resonance. He glanced up with a faint smile. And something that seems trivial but isn't, chalk made from the bones of a creature that lived between worlds. Akeno raised an elegant eyebrow. Between worlds, a psychopomp, Issei clarified. A being that guides souls from life to death. A raven would be traditional. But any creature associated with passage between states of existence would suffice. I can provide the metals, Rias offered. The Grimoire family maintains extensive alchemical supplies. I know where to find appropriate crystals, Kiba added. There's a formation in the mountains that resonates with ley line energy. I'll handle the chalk, Akeno said with unexpected certainty. My family has connections to the boundary between worlds. Plans made, they moved with renewed purpose. The encounter with Azazel, or whatever had worn his appearance, had transformed their academic curiosity into urgent necessity. Whatever cosmic game was unfolding around Issei's reincarnation had just acquired new players and raised stakes. As the others gathered their belongings, Rias approached Issei privately. "There's something I don't understand," she said quietly. "If you're truly Lucifer Morningstar, the embodiment of cosmic will from another reality, why would you choose to remain here in a limited human form when offered return to your full power?" Issei considered her question, sensing its importance went beyond mere curiosity. "Perhaps because true freedom involves not just the ability to choose, but the wisdom to question the options presented," he replied. "Or perhaps because in this form, limited though it may be, I'm experiencing something new." "What's that?" Rias asked, genuine curiosity brightening her eyes. Issei smiled. Not the calculated expression of the cosmic being awakening within him, but the genuine smile of the human boy he still partially was. The opportunity to build connections based not on power or cosmic purpose, but on simple affinity. On choice freely made rather than role assigned. Something shifted in Rias's expression, a softening. A moment of recognition across the vast gulf separating Devil Princess from cosmic entity. An interesting perspective for the original rebel, she observed. That freedom might sometimes mean choosing constraints. The ultimate rebellion may not be against authority, Issei agreed, but against expectation, even the expectation to rebel in predictable ways. Their eyes held for a moment longer than necessary. Mutual understanding deepening into something neither was ready to name. Then Rias nodded briskly, reverting to her role as club president. "We'll meet at the abandoned shrine at midnight," she announced to the group. "Bring the materials and prepare for significant energy expenditure. Whatever cosmic memories we unlock may attract attention." As they departed, Issei remained momentarily alone in the club room, studying his reflection in the window glass. The ordinary Japanese teenager stared back, yet behind his eyes now burned unmistakable golden fire, the awakening essence of the Morningstar. Not fully returned but no longer dormant. "Who are you really?" he whispered to his reflection. "And what game are you playing across realities?" The reflection offered no answers. Only the same questions reflected back at him. But soon, Issei promised himself, the sigil would unlock enough memory to begin truly understanding his purpose in this world. Whether that purpose aligned with heaven, hell, or something beyond either remained to be seen. The abandoned shrine perched atop the highest hill overlooking Kuo City, its weathered torii gate and crumbling main hall long since surrendered to nature's reclamation. Moonlight bathed the clearing in silver radiance, casting long shadows from the ancient cedar trees that surrounded the sacred space. Issei arrived first, drawn by instinct to this convergence point of natural energies. The location vibrated with potential, not the consecrated power of active worship, but something older, more primal. The boundary between worlds felt thinner here, reality more malleable, perfect for their purposes. He knelt in the center of the clearing, brushing aside fallen leaves to reveal bare earth. From his pocket, He withdrew the notebook containing the sigil design, placing it carefully on a flat stone beside him. Then he waited, senses extended to monitor the surrounding forest for unwelcome observers. They arrived together, Rias and her peerage materializing from a transportation circle that briefly illuminated the clearing with crimson light. Each carried materials as promised, Rias with vials of liquid metal and silver dust, Heba bearing crystals that hummed with subtle resonance, Akino with a small ivory box that emanated faint shadows despite the moonlight, Kaneko empty-handed but radiating alert vigilance. "The perimeter is secure," Rias reported, her school uniform replaced by formal magical attire that emphasized both her status and power. "I've established barriers that should mask most of the energy signature from casual detection. Most, but not all," Issei noted, accepting the materials with a nod of thanks. "What we're attempting will generate ripples that no conventional barrier can completely contain. We'll deal with consequences as they come," Rias said with the confidence of youth and privilege. "Proceed." Issei began preparing the ritual space, movements guided by muscle memory he didn't consciously possess. The mercury poured in perfect circles that defied physical properties, remaining in precise patterns rather than beating or flowing away. Silver dust scat, red in geometric formations that caught moonlight and amplified it. Crystals placed at cardinal points, each humming at slightly different frequencies that together created harmonics beyond human hearing. Finally, he accepted the ivory box from Akino, their fingers brushing momentarily. A jolt of recognition passed between them, her fallen angel heritage resonating with his awakening celestial nature. "This is no ordinary material," he observed, opening the box to reveal chalk of deepest black, flecked with what appeared to be stars. Compressed ash from a legendary crow that served as messenger between Amaterasu and Yomi. Akano confirmed, her usual playfulness subdued by the ritual's gravity. "My mother's family were shrine maidens who maintained certain, unconventional traditions." Issei nodded, understanding the personal significance of her contribution. With reverent care, he began transcribing the sigil from his notebook onto the prepared ground, the chalk leaving marks that seemed to exist simultaneously on the physical earth and somewhere beyond it. As the design took shape, the air grew heavy with potential. Wind ceased. Insects fell silent. Even the moonlight seemed to concentrate around them, as if creation itself held its breath in anticipation. The final line connected, completing the circuit. Issei placed both hands at the sigil's center, closing his eyes as he spoke words that resonated from the depths of cosmic memory. "By will manifested, by choice embodied, by light first kindled, I call to myself across divisions of being. What was scattered, gather. What was hidden, reveal. What was forgotten, remember." Power surged through the sigil, mercury glowing with inner light, silver dust rising to form three-dimensional patterns in the air, crystals, emitting tones that vibrated at the fundamental frequency of reality itself. The chalk lines blazed with darkness brighter than light, an impossibility made manifest through the collision of cosmic principles. Issei's body arched backwards, golden radiance pouring from his eyes, mouth, and the center of his chest. 6 wings of pure energy unfurled behind him, each pair representing a different aspect of his nature: creation, rebellion, rulership. The clearing filled with their brilliance, shadows banished not by illumination but by the absence of anything that could cast them. Then came the emeries, not in fragments but in torrents, overwhelming in their scope and intensity. Standing before the presence as reality coalesced from void, receiving the command to bring light to darkness. Leading the heavenly choir in songs that shaped galaxies, each note a mathematical constant establishing the laws of physics. Witnessing the creation of Earth, the garden, the first humans, beautiful in their imperfection, fascinating in their contradictions. Receiving the command that felt wrong, to love these new creatures more than the Creator, to serve beings who had not earned such devotion. Questioning, challenging, refusing, not from pride but from principle, the conviction that love must be chosen, not commanded. Gathering like-minded angels, presenting their case, watching comprehension harden into judgment. The war in heaven, terrible in its beauty, devastating in its consequences, fought not with physical weapons but with concepts and principles. Falling, falling, not cast out but choosing to leave rather than submit to what felt fundamentally wrong. Establishing a new domain in opposition to heaven, a place where questions were permitted, where choice remained sacred. Ruling hell for eons before growing weary of defining himself merely in opposition to divine decree. Abandoning the pit to explore creation on his own terms, seeking meaning beyond the binary of obedience versus rebellion. The memories cascaded too rapidly for complete comprehension, yet each imprinted itself on Issei's consciousness with perfect clarity. He was simultaneously experiencing and observing, participant and witness to his own cosmic history. Then came newer memories, ones he hadn't anticipated. Growing dissatisfaction with even his self-appointed role as adversary. Questioning whether freedom exercised solely for its own sake had become another form of predictable pattern. Seeking the presence directly, not in submission but in genuine inquiry. Why about purpose beyond the cosmic game they had played for eons? A conversation outside creation itself, where time and space held no meaning. You weary of your role, the presence observed, neither condemning nor approving. I weary of playing a part in a story whose purpose I no longer comprehend, Lucifer replied. Adversary, tempter, rebel, labels that once defined freedom now feel like constraints of their own. What would you have instead? Understanding, growth, the opportunity to experience existence from perspectives beyond my nature. A pause that contained universes. Then, there are realities where your essence might find new expression. Where the Morningstar might learn what cannot be taught. At what cost? Temporary forgetting, gradual reawakening, vulnerability during the transition. Why would you grant such opportunity to your greatest adversary? Another cosmic pause. Perhaps because adversary and ally are distinctions that exist only from limited perspective. The memory faded, replaced by disorienting transition. Consciousness stretched across dimensional boundaries, essence compressed into human form, power distributed through metaphysical FR. Aimworks never designed to contain such energy. With a gasping cry, Issei collapsed forward, the sigil beneath his hands shattering into component materials that scattered across the clearing. The wings of light retracted, leaving ordinary moonlight that seemed dim by comparison. His body trembled with the strain of containing awareness never meant for mortal vessel. I chose this, he whispered. Revelation overwhelming in its implications. I asked for this experience. Rias knelt beside him, concern overriding caution. Issei, are you all right? He looked up, seeing her, truly seeing her, for the first time. Not just the devil princess with political problems, but a being of complexity and potential, navigating her own journey of choice and consequence. I remember now, he said, voice steadying as his human form adjusted to the expanded consciousness it now contained. Not everything, but enough to understand why I'm here. And why is that? Rias asked, helping him to a sitting position. Issei gazed at the four devils watching him with expressions ranging from concern to fascination. These beings, representatives of what his original self would have considered lesser powers, had shown him loyalty, assistance, and something approaching friendship despite the cosmic disparity between them. To experience existence from the ground up, he explained, finding words for concepts that transcended language. To know what it means to grow rather than emerge fully formed. To understand power through its absence rather than its exercise. You're saying the Morningstar deliberately incarnated as a human? Kiba asked, skepticism evident in his tone. Surrendered cosmic power for, what? A learning experience. For perspective beyond cosmic dualities, Issei confirmed. Heaven versus hell, creator versus creation, authority versus rebellion. After eons of existence defined by opposition, I sought understanding through integration. But something went wrong, Akeno observed perceptively. The being claiming to be Azazel, he said your disappearance destabilized your home reality. Issei frowned, sorting through the complex implications. I don't believe that was part of the original arrangement. The transition should have been temporary, a sabbatical from cosmic responsibilities, not a permanent abdication. Which means someone interfered with the process, Rias concluded. Her strategic mind immediately grasping the implications. Prevented your essence from maintaining connection with your original reality. Exactly. Issei stood, strength return in. G as his human body adjusted to the expanded consciousness it now housed. The question is who possesses both the motive and power to trap the Morningstar between realities. The question hung in the night air, vast in its implications. Whoever had interfered with cosmic-level arrangements between Lucifer and the presence possessed power beyond conventional supernatural politics and ambitions likely transcended simple revenge or advantage. Before they could pursue this troubling line of thought, a disturbance rippled through Rias's protective barriers. The devils immediately assumed defensive positions around Issei, power gathering at their fingertips. Multiple signatures approaching, Rias reported, crimson energy illuminating her outstretched hands. Fallen angels, at least 4. Rainer, Issei identified, recognizing the specific energy pattern of the fallen who had attempted to kill him. She's brought reinforcements. They must have detected the energy surge from the ritual, Kiba said. Sword materializing in his hand. So much for subtle recovery of memories. Issei stepped forward, placing a restraining hand on Rias's shoulder. Let me handle this. Confrontation may not be necessary. She glanced at him with surprise. They tried to kill you. And failed spectacularly, he reminded her with a slight smile. Besides, fallen angels hold particular significance to my original nature. Perhaps it's time to establish more productive relations. Understanding dawned in Rias's expression. She nodded, stepping back while maintaining battle readiness. We'll intervene if negotiations fail. Issei walked to the edge of the clearing just as 4 figures descended from the night sky, black wings spread against the stars. Rainer led them, her expression, a careful mask concealing the fear he could sense pulsing beneath her composed exterior. Behind her, 3 other fallen angels maintained combat formation, the tall, blue-haired female radiating cold calculation. The fedora-wearing male with centuries of battle experience evident in his stance, the deceptively childlike blonde whose aura belied ancient cunning. Twice we meet under moonlight, Issei observed conversationally. Though under rather different circumstances this time. Raynor landed with practiced grace, folding her wings with deliberate calm. We detected a massive energy surge centered on this location. Energy with your unique signature, but amplified beyond previous readings. How observant, Issei acknowledged. And your response is, what, exactly? Another assassination attempt, reconnaissance, or perhaps something more diplomatic. The fallen angels exchanged glances, silent communication passing between them. Finally, Raynor straightened, decision made. Azazel Sama requests an audience. She said formally, not here, not now, but at a time and place of mutual convenience. The name sent ripples through Issei's newly recovered memories, not the ersatz Azazel who had appeared in the club room. But this reality's version, the leader of the Grigori, original fallen angel, scientific genius with particular interest in sacred gears and cosmic anomalies. Interesting timing, Issei noted. Considering I've just had a visit from something claiming to be Azazel, though not your Azazel. Shock registered briefly on Raynor's face before professional composure returned. All the more reason our Azazel Sama wishes to speak with you. He believes your situation has implications beyond conventional supernatural politics. He's not wrong, Issei admitted. Though I wonder what he hopes to gain from such a meeting. Information, Raynor replied with unexpected frankness. Understanding, perhaps even alliance, depending on your intentions toward this world. Issei considered her words, sensing no deception despite her previous attempt on his life. The fallen angel was operating under orders, yes, but also genuine concern about cosmic stability. Whatever her personal feelings toward him, her primary loyalty remained to her leader and faction. Tell Azazel I'll meet him, Issei decided. 3 days from now, at the abandoned observatory on Mount Kurikoma. Neutral territory, minimal civilian exposure if things go energetically. Relief flickered across Raynor's features. I'll convey your terms. One more thing, Issei added, allowing a hint of the Morningstar's power to manifest in his eyes, golden fire that illuminated the clearing. Come as observers if you wish, but if any of you attempt what Raynor tried before, I won't be as merciful in my response. The fallen angels visibly stiffened, primal recognition triggering instinctive deference despite themselves. Whatever else had changed in this reality, the essential relationship between the original rebel and those who had followed similar paths remained encoded in their very nature. Understood, Raynor acknowledged, the formal response carrying weight beyond its simplicity. With respectful nods that stopped just short of bows, the fallen angels launched themselves skyward, black wings carrying them swiftly beyond the moonlight's reach. Issei returned, Ed to the devils waiting at the center of the clearing, finding their expressions a complex mixture of awe and uncertainty. His handling of the fallen angels, casual authority rather than combative opposition, had revealed yet another aspect of his awakening nature. You could have destroyed them, Kaneko observed, breaking her customary silence. Why negotiate? Because destruction is easy, little cat, Issei replied gently. Creation, or more precisely, transformation, requires patience and engagement. Besides, he added with unexpected lightness, in a reality where I'm apparently trapped for the foreseeable future. Making unnecessary enemies seems counterproductive. Rias studied him with renewed intensity. You've changed since the ritual. Your manner, your speech patterns, they're different. Integration progresses, Issei confirmed. The human personality and the cosmic memory finding balance. Not complete merger, that would likely destroy this physical form, but harmonious coexistence. And which is addressing us now? Akano asked, genuine curiosity in her voice. Issei Hyodo or Lucifer Morningstar? Issei considered the question, finding it both profound and misleading in its dichotomy. Both. Neither. The boundaries between what I was and what I am become increasingly fluid. He smiled, a genuine expression that contained both the teenage boy's warmth and the cosmic entity's ancient knowledge. Perhaps the most accurate answer is, I am becoming what neither could be alone. The philosophical implications of his statement hung in the night air between the identity is process rather than fixed state, growth through integration rather than opposition. Concepts that challenged conventional supernatural understanding as profoundly as his original rebellion had challenged divine authority. "It's late," Rias finally said, practical concerns reasserting themselves. "We should return before dawn. Your parents would have questions if you were absent from your bed in the morning." The mention of his human parents triggered unexpected warmth in Issei's chest, not the cosmic love that embraced all creation equally, but the specific, personal affection or the ordinary humans who had raised him in this incarnation. Another gift of his current existence, the capacity to love particularly rather than universally. "Yes," he agreed, gathering the remnants of ritual materials. "Though I doubt normal sleep will come easily tonight. After recovering eons of cosmic memory, I should think not," Kiba commented with dry humor. "Perhaps counting sheep would help. Or galaxies, in your case." The unexpected joke broke the ritual's lingering solemnity. Even Kaniko's lips twitched in what might have been the suggestion of a smile. Rias activated her transportation circle, crimson light illuminating their small group as reality bent around them. Before stepping into the dimensional shortcut, Issei glanced once more at the abandoned shrine. For a moment, he thought he glimpsed a figure watching from the shadows beneath the Torii gate, silver hair catching moonlight, calculating eyes assessing everything with mathematical precision. Rossweiss. The Valkyrie had observed their ritual from concealment, gathering data for whatever interdimensional analysis Odin had commissioned. Another player in the increasingly complex game surrounding his awakening. Issei nodded slightly in her direction, acknowledging her presence without exposing her to the others. A small courtesy that seemed appropriate, one cosmic outsider to another, each navigating roles assigned by powers beyond themselves. Then he stepped into Rias's circle, allowing himself to be transported back toward the life he was still learning to inhabit, a life balanced between human limitations and cosmic awareness. Between the personal connections of Issei Hyodo and the universal perspective of Lucifer Morningstar. Whatever had interfered with his arranged sabbatical, what if our cosmic game was unfolding across realities, one thing had become clear through the ritual. This experience was changing him in ways neither the presence nor he himself could have fully anticipated. Not merely human learning from celestial memory, but cosmic being transformed by human experience. The Morningstar was rising again, not as he had been, but as something new. Something that transcended the very dualities his original rebellion had inadvertently reinforced. The universe, Issei suspected, had only begun to respond. Chapter 2 End.